Hi, folks, and welcome to their Sunday morning Samoflange. I'm Matt. Oh, wait, and I'm still by myself. That's right, Benjamin will not be joining us for the rest of the month of July. He is on what I like to call a summer siesta. I can't wait for him to talk about when he gets back, but Benjamin just switched jobs. He got a great new job. He turned in his 2 weeks and left his old job, but he told me that he wanted to have a little bit of siesta in between that. I can totally understand that. I have done the same myself for much longer. His is only a few weeks long. Mine was a few months long. But because of that, he is traveling every which way, having a grand old time. I can't wait for him to get back here to tell us about his new job, what he likes about it, how things are going, what all fun things he did. And so he will be back on the podcast, hopefully in August. I don't know. August is a very busy time for me, so it may be later toward the end of August or September when he comes back. But I am super happy for my friend. But do not worry, I am here to get today's topic, and as always, I must digress for a little while, right? Because if there's only one person doing this, the podcast would probably run about 15 minutes. So to round out that 30-minute thing, I want to talk about my little summer siesta that I went on a long time ago. What had happened is I used to work for a bank called AmSouth Bank. They're gone now, so I can talk about them. I was very miserable there. We worked about 50 to 60 hours a week. I am not exaggerating there. We had to get there by 8 o'clock, so a little bit before then, 7:30. We did not leave till 6 p.m. or at 6 p.m. maybe when we closed or something. I can't remember. We close at 6 or whatever and get out at 6:30. So it was almost 11 hours a day, but it was 12 because they didn't give us lunch hours. When I was a loan officer there, we didn't get our lunch. You had to eat your lunch at your desk when you could because there was just so much. And they said, well, we'll pay you for that hour. And they would. They'd pay you overtime. But it still wasn't worth it. I remember coming home to my apartment and crashing on my couch and sleeping on my couch for about 3 to 4 hours, wake up about 9 or 10, fix something to eat, take a shower, go back to bed, start all over again. And on Saturdays, we had to work from 8 to 12. And the doors were closed, just the drive-thru was open. So why did the loan officer have to be there? Because it's the only time we had to catch up on all of our paperwork. And I'm not even playing. We had to work on holidays as well. Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July. We had to work a full day with the doors closed just because we had so much paperwork to catch up on. It was exhausting. Yes, they paid you for it, but it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth my time. And I started getting aggravated. So I turned in my 2 weeks. Even though I had no other idea of where to go, I just didn't want to work for the bank anymore. And they were getting bought out by Regions. And, since we weren't taking over them, they were taking over us. And there was a Regions bank, like right down the road from where I worked. I went, they're going to cut us as quick as they can. But they convinced me to stay on because they needed the help. And they said, look, if you don't have another job, then why don't you just stay on? We'll let you take off for any interviews. It was a weird setup we had because then I stayed on for like 2 more months. I didn't go to that many job interviews because jobs weren't that easy to come by as they are presently right now. And so I was just kind of stuck there with nothing to do. And I know I didn't like it there, but I couldn't find anything better at the time. And that was back in the day when we were like, oh man, I'm getting paid so much money and they got benefits. And see, I used to think like that. And I get on to people who think like that because you shouldn't think like that. If you are miserable, quit. Quit. Because it's not worth, it makes so much money though. No, I got great benefits. But you're miserable. It's not worth it to me anymore. But back then I thought, oh man, this is what I'm supposed to have, so I better not leave it. It's a good job. It's a bank job. Back then, bank jobs, late 90s, that was a good job there. Good career, I guess you could have. And but anyway, when I finally left, I remember the day I left, they were going to make me work Memorial Day, which wasn't that bad, but it was also my birthday. My birthday kind of lands on Memorial Day every once in a while. And I told them, I said, look, I had this whole day planned out that I was supposed to do something. You guys said we were done working holidays. And so I kind of thought that was it. And they said, well, work this one holiday. You're getting paid double. Remember, double time. I said, it doesn't matter. Am I going to be the whole day? Well, yeah, we got to do this. We have to do this. It's mandatory. That's what they'd also say. It was mandatory. You could not get off for the holidays. And I was like, man, you know what? Screw this. I said, okay. I said, actually, this Friday is my last day. I turned in my 2 weeks a long time ago, and I could quit whenever I wanted. And she was like, what? Really? Where's your job? I said, I don't have a job. I just know I'm not coming in on Memorial Day. And they wouldn't budge. If I was going to quit, fine. But if I didn't quit, they were not going to give me Memorial Day off because they needed me. They needed all hands on deck. So I was like, fine. So I left, and I walked away, never looked back. But I was so exhausted, I said, you know what? Instead of looking for a job, I have saved all my money up because I was working and not doing anything else. Well, why don't I spend it? And so I went on a spending spree for those 3 months. I remember the year was 2005. Man, maybe I should have Bruce on this podcast. We should talk about the first Comic-Con we went to. Right before Comic-Con in San Diego got really super crazy was 2005. 2006 was when it first sold out before it opened. In 2005, you could still go up there and get tickets. It was popular, but it wasn't like sold out popular. The tickets would eventually sell out, like on Saturday. It would eventually sell out, but you could buy, a 4-day pass on day one. You could just go up to the counter back then. And then in 2006 was the first time they sold out online prior to the show starting. We thought, whoa, that was kind of crazy. And that's now the norm. But back then, it still wasn't. It was probably the last best year for the Comic-Con. A lot of people would say that. And Bruce and I got to go. Bruce is a pharmacist making tons more money than I am, but I was spending on track with him the entire time. I was spending money left and right. Gosh, and then I flew to different places, saw some friends, traveled a lot, paid for meals. There was a big rumor for years about me. It was like, oh, Matt's stinking rich. No, Matt just sat on tens of thousands of dollars at one time and blew it. It's stupid to think that I did it now, but I don't have any regrets. I'm kind of glad I did it. And it was just fun. I do remember this. I remember the money started, it wasn't tens of thousands. It was probably 10,000. But still a lot. But I was blowing, maybe 1,000 a week or whatever. I remember going shopping with my cousin, and she remembers this too, because we went out. I bought her something. I can't remember what. I bought her a nice gift, $100 gift or something. And then I went and bought the newest Xbox, the newest games, extra controllers, all out. And I spent, and we spent $1,000 that day. And I went, that's how you spend $1,000 a day, because we'd gone out to eat and done this stuff, and she was younger and everything, so I was the cool older cousin, and we're still close. You know what? I attribute it to that day, not because I bought her something nice, but just because we just had a fun day together. Because I was like, you know what? I'm going to get to know my little cousin a little bit better. So I drove down to Mobile, and we did that, and we had a blast. It was so much fun. In fact, I'll have to ask her if she remembers. She probably remembers more about that day than I do. I remember I got the video games with all the new video console. I think it was the Xbox with all the new games, with all the extra controllers. And spent hundreds of dollars on all that and bought her something too. But we had a blast. And I just did stuff like that for forever. And for those 2 months. And then when fun started going low, I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to get a job. And I remember I came home, and it was in August. And I sat down. No, I came in, I got my mail because someone was holding my mail. So I took my mail, and I said, you know what? It's a nice day. I'm going to walk on the levee. There's a levee right where this apartment was. And so I walked down on the levee, sat down, opened up my mail, and watched the sunset. And the whole time I'm just opening mail. A lot of it's bills, a lot of it's junk. And then I'm getting this letter from this lawyer. I'm like, well, what is going on here? I open it up. My great aunt passed away. My great aunt was the apprentice to some really fancy, popular painter in New York. I don't know the painter's name. I can't remember anymore. My mom would probably know. But she was the apprentice to that painter, which means she was the only one who could touch up his paintings or whatnot. And I thought, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Supposedly she was super rich. We never got to see her hardly at all. And but she never had any kids either. And her sister, my grandmother, had grandkids. So she would give us, I remember she gave us a subscription to Highlights magazine every year. I mean, that's all from Aunt Pauline. But she just hoarded up her money and just decided, well, I guess I'll give it to her kids. Or maybe she gave it to my grandmother, who then said, no, give it to my grandkids. And it was a couple $1,000. And I was like, hey, the siesta continues for one more month. And so I went for the month of August. and partied it up. My dad was getting a little irritated with me, like, when are you going to get a job? Get a job, you bum. And I did. I settled on getting a job with DirecTV. Of course, if anyone needs to know this, I worked for them for about 5 years. And then when they shut that call center down, now I work at my regular job here, which I don't think legally I can say on a podcast. I don't think we're allowed to. I don't know. Anyway, there's a buddy of mine who can't say where he works. He works with me too, and he has a hilarious podcast. And whenever he has to, whenever he screws up and accidentally says the name of the company he works for, he'll go back through the podcast and go, radio edit. And my favorite moment being on his show was me just editing myself out during his podcast. But anyway, so I work at Radio Edit, and it's a lot of fun. I've been there for, I think, 13 years now. So it's been great. But I don't blame Benjamin for having a summer siesta at all. One more thing I'd like to talk about before we get into the topic is, I know we reviewed the first half season of Stranger Things. At least we thought was the first half season. We didn't know there were 2 very, very, very long, boring episodes left over. And we talked about doing a part 2 to that. I made a decision that we are not going to talk about that because that show sucked. The last 2 episodes, like I said, combined, I think were like 3 hours or something, or I don't know. It was pretty long. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, get out of here. And I thought, well, maybe it's like super action-packed, and that's why they're super long. No, it's super long because it's super boring. And Netflix goes, shoot all the B-roll, include everything. There is no unedited version of those TV episodes, I bet. That's just everything they had in the can. They just put it up on the screen and made it work. And first off, I think an episode talking about those 2 episodes would be just a waste of time. And I do not know what Benjamin or Mikey thought about it, but I'll just tell you, it sucked straight up. Yeah, the Eddie guy was kind of fun. I mean, who didn't think he was going to die? It was kind of obvious he's going to die. He was made for that whole series to die at the end. And I mean, I guess that's fine, but I mean, everything about it's just anticlimactic. Now the Upside Down is in the real world now. Oh, what will they do? Well, I don't know. Now it's not a secret anymore. I don't get the point of it. I don't get the point. Oh, and there's going to be a new season. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. And none of the characters, you really don't care about them anymore. They've kind of lost their magic. Again, I think it's funny when the redheaded girl flashes back, and they did it again. And one of those episodes where she flashed back to something that should have happened just 2 years ago, but was filmed 4 years ago, and they all look like little babies back then. So I don't know what they can do to save this series. Yes, I'll watch it because I'm a completist. I have to see how it ends. But I have very, very, very extremely low expectations for how the whole series will end. It's just, it started off really good. And I was like, oh, well, maybe they've got their groove back. But then it kind of ended, it fell kind of flat to me at the end. And it just fell off a cliff on the last 2 episodes. My wife tried to watch them with me, but again, she was so bored. I think she went off and did something else, or maybe just fell asleep right there on the couch. And I don't blame her, because there's tons of boring dialogue in that. I mean, shoot, I'm pretty sure I was checking my phone and trying to find other things to do while the show was playing in the background. It's basically background noise is what the last 2 episodes should have been called, because that's exactly what it sounded like to me. Really bad. Really, of course, the villain does not get defeated because they need to have him back for the 5th season. Well, why introduce him for the 4th season? He felt like he was made up anyway. I don't think the writers know where to take this. They had a great idea for season 1. They should have stopped it. That way we could have been saying, oh, they should have given it another season. And this is why all good things must end before well, Seinfeld make a joke about it. You go while you're out on top. Stranger Things was on top on its first season. They should have gone and never looked back. But you can't say no when they back up the money trucks, I guess. And like I said, season 2 a step down from season 1, but still decent. Season 3 atrocious. Season 4 starts great and then ends even worse than season 3, I think. It's funny because season 3 started really great too and just crapped all over their ending. But I don't know. I mean, who didn't think, Hoffman or whatever was dead? I mean, come on. Get out of here. Everyone knew he was alive. Just bad all the way through. And such a disappointment, too. All right, done with the dialogue. Now it's time for the top 5. You've seen it in the title here. And this was an idea that got me excited, but I'm not really sure that Mikey or Benjamin were excited about this topic. I never got good feedback about, yeah, we should do it. No one. So, I mean, maybe this is one that they didn't want to do, and that's fine. I mean, it's fine. They don't have to like every idea I come up with. In fact, the idea may not be good. But someone mentioned this on one of my live Q&As like about a month ago, and they said, what was a game show you really loved as a kid? And I was thinking, oh, wait a minute, because I was thinking about all these game shows. It's like, you know what, there's a few game shows I always wanted to be on, but, you know, as a kid and never got a chance. And I said, well, is there 5? And I did write out 5. Now, here's the deal. There is, I guarantee you, if Mikey and Benjamin were here, there was one for sure we were all going to have. One for sure I knew. So there's definitely going to be one, you know, unified crossover, and then maybe one other one. But the things that they were going to put on there, I'm not. Nickelodeon Guts or whatever? Nope, not on my list. Not on my list. Probably be on a lot of your list, but not on mine. So what are my... Well, first off, my 6th one, and I lost my paper. I don't know where it is. My girls have totally trashed the entire room here. So my paper is gone, but I cannot remember the name of the show. It's called like Video Power or whatnot. You had to stump this video guru with your video game knowledge of Super NES or NES games or Sega games or whatnot. And I mean, I was so good at that game. We talked, me and the kids from the neighborhood, we'd talk about that game. We'd be like, yeah, I can take on the Wiz or whatever his name was. And, oh, you totally wanted to be on that show. And I thought that was the show for me. But I remember when I put this list together, that made my list, and I watched it. I watched like a little snippet of an episode and went, oh, this sucks. It is not as cool as I remember. But there was another one that I'd forgotten about. And the next day I thought about it. And I was like, oh no, that one is going to be my new number 5. Because that's one I truly wanted to be on. And I kind of wish Wes from Prince of the Universe is here. Because I think he'd have a lot to say. I should have invited him over. But anyway, sorry Wes if you're listening. Number 5 is The Bozo Show. Now I say Wes because Wes was actually one of the kids who got selected to be the kid playing from home. You know, they draw a name and that kid would play from home. And Wes got to be that kid. I wrote into the Bozo Show too, but I was never that kid. Wes was. And Wes said, you know, they mailed his prizes to him like a month or 3 months before it even aired. You know, so here I knew the kid wasn't going to do really well or make it to bucket 3 and then crap out. But it was the bucket game where you're basically just dropping ping pongs into 6 buckets. And if ever the little kid missed the first bucket, Bozo would always make the same joke. Oh, it's a square ball. Because he always makes sure they get one prize. But if you could get all 6 buckets, you got a brand new Savin bicycle. And I really wanted to swim bicycles so bad. And but I thought about that. I said, man, that game looks so stinking easy. And during our Reformation Day / Harvest Festival / Christian Halloween party at our church, they had the bucket game. Someone had those type of buckets. They had ping pong balls. They laid them all out, and I won every time. I got all 6 buckets, and I was like, yes, because I think they were like, I want to say each one was 1 foot apart from the next one, so the longest one was 6 feet long, and I hit all 6 buckets every time I played. And the whole time I was like, you know, like, this is vindication. I could win the Bozo Show because I won this at the Harvest Festival. But I would have loved to have been on the Bozo Show playing the bucket game. All right, so what about number 4? Well, number 4 ties into another very popular computer game that I played the heck out of when I was a kid. And I'm almost positive if Mikey was here, he would have put this one on his list. But where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Buddy, I can't tell you how many times I took that old video game. I started off as a gumshoe and became a master detective. And when you finally caught Carmen, you were so happy because the longer you waited to give him an answer, the better chance she had of getting away. So I remember we had a team who all had the Carmen Sandiego game. So they all brought their booklets over, and we would all be there searching through pages together, helping out whoever was playing the game. You had this think tank. You're going, that's where this is. That's where this is. Oh, no, that's located in Rome. Go to Rome. Hurry, choose Rome. Because you're trying to catch Carmen. Now that you're not a gumshoe anymore, you're a master detective. And this was basically the game show of it. And the prize was you get to go to anywhere in the the U.S. continental states, the 48 states. And I don't remember where I said I'd go. Probably New York, because I was a New York Mets fan. I wanted to go see the New York Mets. I mean, who wins that game and goes, Wyoming, I want to go to Wyoming? No one. I can't remember what people said. I think a lot of people said Florida, which makes a lot of sense. But, when you play a game like that, states like North Dakota are like, well, crap, we're out. No one's going to pick North Dakota. Who wants to go to North Dakota? Wyoming. I don't know. Anyway, am I offending the people from North Dakota and Wyoming who listen to my podcast? Possibly. If you are from one of those states, let me know. I would love to know if I have people in North Dakota and Wyoming. I'll throw in South Dakota too, okay? Even though I think y'all have Mount Rushmore, so y'all have something to go see at least. I'd like to go see Mount Rushmore. All right, but where in the world? Carmen Sandiego, numero 4. Number 3 is the popular one. This is the one that, is a no-brainer, Double Dare. I mean, whenever I see Mark Summers today on Food Network, I don't see him as a Food Network guy. I still see him as the host of Double Dare. I love Double Dare. We had the at-home game. We played the game a million times. That game sucked. It was stupid, but we played our own Double Dare, a version of Double Dare after school and stuff. I'd play the host, or sometimes I'd be on a team, and we just had so much fun playing little games like that. But watching the show and have them go through the challenge and get all the flags in time in under 60 seconds, very rarely did they get all of them. But it was so much fun to watch. I freaking loved that show. I want a Double Dare t-shirt right now. Just such an awesome show. And I think this would be number 1 on Mikey's list. And I know it would be on Benjamin's list too. Maybe not number 1, but it'd be up there. Probably Nickelodeon Guts for those two guys. But Double Dare to me was where it was at. And I loved it. But as a kid, there was a show I loved more than Double Dare back in the day, and that's why it's my number 2, because after watching, and I did watch snippets from all these, and they start off, Double Dare starts by asking you questions. You did a physical challenge, which was fun, but the best thing was Funhouse. Funhouse, the host was J.D. Roth. I remember he had his first TV movie, and he would advertise it on the game show, and we watched it, because J.D. Roth was in it. We had to watch it, and I can't remember, but it was about childhood friends who had a code sign of crossing their arms together as an X to show their love for one another. They're in Club X or whatnot. I don't remember the name of this TV movie, but I remember J.D. Roth going, hey, check me out on the TV, ABC afternoon, Saturday morning special or Saturday afternoon special, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, yes, J.D. Roth, we will do whatever you say. You are our leader. But you answered a few questions, and then you got to go into Funhouse. You were buying seconds and time to get all these like price tags in the Funhouse. And the Funhouse was this big old mountain of just different places you could go and get into and try to search for different flags in different areas or price tags, because I guess Double Dare had a copyright on flags. But it just seems so much fun. And then watching the Funhouse today, I was like, oh man, yeah. I remember Funhouse because you tag in your partner and they tag in. And J.D. Roth was really cool. He'd always give them the benefit of the doubt. If they got one tag, he'd give it to them. If they barely, because if you don't get back in time, with the tags or whatnot, you don't get them. But he would try to give you that bonus second if you're coming out the door, at the last second, he'd go ahead and count it. But oh man, running through the Funhouse was one of my ultimate dreams. Now, if my wife was here, she would say, Lost Temple. What a temple? I don't know. There's a Temple Run game that was in the 90s that was basically Funhouse, just with the Hidden Pyramid. I can't remember what the name was. She would know. It'd be her number 1. it would be her number one game show she'd want to be on. But to me, it was just a spiffed up version of Funhouse, which no one remembers now. But, oh, man, mercy me, I love Funhouse. So what is my number one? My number one just came to me just a few years ago. This was a game show that was out in the 80s, but we didn't get it here in the U.S. It was in the U.K., and I watched a ton of them in 2020 and a few in 2021 too, and just ate it up. It's called Crystal Maze. If you have not seen Crystal Maze, you have got to check these out on YouTube. They are incredible. They go through this maze. There's 4 different areas where they're going and playing little games of, either skill, strength, or I can't remember what it was, puzzles or whatnot. And they worked as a team, and they brought their team captain in there. If they didn't get out of the room in time, they got locked away. But you could buy, you could give up a crystal, which is like 5 extra seconds in the big crystal maze, which is at the end. It's just this big air machine that would blow up all these tickets. And you stand in the middle of it trying to get all the golden tickets. Now, the thing was, there were silver tickets in there too. And it was very hard when everything was blowing around to see what was gold, what was silver. But for every silver you got minus points. For every gold you got plus points. So you're trying to grab the gold and the silver, and the more crystals you had, the better chance you had at winning the grand prize. And very few people won the grand prize. A few people did, which I don't understand the prizes. One was one was like a trip to a bed and breakfast or an academy or what. It was like this nice expenses paid trip to these places in the UK that I didn't know. But it was really cool and a ton of fun. It seemed like, and like the 4 different areas, they'd start in different ones for each episode, and they had different games eventually as the seasons went on, and it was, oh man. My friend Luke from Down from the Attic introduced me to that show, and I can't remember. Dang, last year I would have known the host, but the original host was incredibly funny, good. He made the show move along. He had lots of jokes and everything. They did bring this over to the U.S. quite recently, in the past 10 years. This show, I want to say 5 years, this show in late 2017 or 2016, I can't remember. I think they brought this show to the U.S., and it just didn't feel the same. It was very Americanized. What I mean by that, just not as creative, I guess, as the UK version was. But that UK version was amazing. And I definitely recommend you going onto YouTube and typing in Crystal Maze Show and watching a few episodes. It is unbelievable. The sets are unbelievable. It was a huge, huge studio where they set this up. And they'd show you on this, like, what 80s or early 90s, I think is when the show started, this 3D map. It's computer generated, but it's very cheap computer generation today. But they'd show you exactly where they were starting, or where they were going, because all of these worlds connected. And you would shift from one world to the next. And oh man, just the possibilities. My buddy Luke said there was, and it was 2019, I think, when I found this out, because I was watching in 2020, right before the pandemic. My buddy Luke had told me that they were opening up, and they have it open now, a Crystal Maze experience where he was living, or not far from where he's living. And it's the old set of the Crystal Maze, and you basically play the game yourself. And you get little prizes, or you get like a little Crystal Maze ball, which is what everyone got, for just participating. And he was like, I'm going to go. Me and my mates are going to go. And I was like, dude, and I'm being honest here. I said, because the girls were, not even a year old. And I told him, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, if I can find a way, because Megan's always been wanting to go to the UK, I said, I want to go. And I said, I'm being serious. Like, maybe save up some money and go to Europe. And Megan got excited when I told her about it. But when the pandemic happened, it kind of shut everything down. And now when things are coming up again, I have 2 new kids. And there's no way I'm traveling anytime soon. But I would love, and I think Luke's been now. I think they finally opened it back up. I'm glad it didn't close down permanently, because they opened up, I want to say, right as the pandemic was coming down. But, even if there was a Double Dare experience or Funhouse experience, would that be fun if someone did that? Double Dare is probably the most popular one. That's the one they probably should do. But either way, oh man, I would love to do the Crystal. And the Crystal Maze had older people. It wasn't just all young people. It was people from all ages. And that's what made it so interesting. And oh, mercy me. But that would have been the 5 game shows I would have wanted to been on when I was a kid. Now, folks, I can't remember who suggested that in my live Q&A about a month ago, but thank you so much. I really had a fun time thinking about this topic and talking about it. But in the comments below, let me know, what do you agree with any of my picks? And then what picks would you put on your top 5 game shows you would want to see? I mean, you would want to be in when you were a kid, because you may name some game shows that I've forgotten about. That's the thing. I didn't do a search for 80s children game shows or 90s children game shows. I just went off my memory, and the first 5, or in this case 6, that came to my head were the ones I put down on paper. But did I miss a big one? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time on another Saturday Morning Samoflange.